I'm going to be making some forward-looking statements, so there's my standard disclosure. As John and others are maybe well aware, our project's located about a 4-hour summer drive north of Vancouver in the historic Goldbridge Braylorn Pioneer Camp, which has produced over 4 million ounces of gold. And our project's located about 4 kilometers east of Goldbridge, and you can drive to it year-round, and 10 kilometers away from the Braylorn Pioneer mine. There's also BC Hydro reservoirs and BC Hydro power facilities within 5 kilometers of the property. So I'll quickly pop into highlights, and I'll get to corporate structure if there's time at the end of the presentation. We're dealing with an epizonal orogenic structural setting here with gold and antimony, which is indicative, the antimony is indicative of a higher level epizonal type orogenic setting, where gold's associated with breccia silicification and sulfidization. But the kind of results that we've had are pretty impressive with channel samples on existing road cuts that were unrecognized, including 5.89 grams per ton gold over 31 meters, 4.88 grams per ton gold over 23 meters. That transitioned into an RC program. We got very good encouragement in that RC drilling with intersections like 14 grams over 15 meters. And then we identified through all of that RC work and initial drilling, we transitioned into really very encouraging diamond drilling results on the Eagle Zone and Eagle South. We got intersections like 15.7 grams over 24.8 meters, including a higher grade interval in there of almost an ounce per ton, or 26.96 grams per ton gold over 4.1 meters. We also have the Imperial Zone, which had some historic work done on it from 2008, and that's about 600 meters away from the Eagle Zone. And we did some drilling on that as well and got a good intersection down there, about 8.5 grams per ton gold over 24.9 meters. So very impressive gold results, considering we only started drilling on this property a year ago, and the first RC program was in late 2020. So part of that work has also resulted in another new zone called the Diplomat Zone that needs to have additional work done on it. And this systematic work has turned this from a small prospect from historic work into a 1.5 kilometer long system where we've got gold and bedrock and 2 kilometers of soil geochem. For instance, there'd never been a soil geochem survey for gold done on this property. None of this kind of systematic work was done. So all of this is just good systematic exploration that's resulted in a great looking discovery. So what do you mean by epizonal orogenic? Well, epizonal are the high levels of an orogenic gold system. They typically, when the orogenic gold systems occur, they occur in compressional regimes. So essentially where continents collide is where these orogenic gold systems occur. And in the younger terrains, often the shallower portions of those systems are preserved. And in our case, we're dealing with the epizonal equivalent, which is in a brittle deformation, as opposed to Braylorn Pioneer, which would be down deeper in a ductile or more plastic deformation. And these higher levels also get the antimony signature associated with the gold, and they were probably deposited maybe 1 kilometer to 2 kilometers below surface at the time, whereas Braylorn Pioneer might be more like 5 kilometers at depth. And this is based on science that's progressed in understanding these epizonal models from 1998 right through the 2017. So this is what one of these compressional regimes look like. You get these big structures that just go right across long distances along strike. I think the Yalakam Fault structural complex is something like 200 kilometers long in our district, and then you get all these substructures within the system, and we're on one of those substructures. Braylorn Pioneer Mine is on another one. And this shows you what one of those structures looks like, but there's also subsidiary structures like Treasure Shear that's parallel. A strong linear feature, and our gold seems to be associated with the contact between dominantly sedimentary terrain and a dominantly mafic volcanic terrain, and that buff coloration is due to the iron carbonate alteration, which you often get with these orogenic gold systems. Our real success recently has been coming from the Eagle and Eagle South Zone as we follow this up southeast. This is looking southeast, up the hill to the southeast. And that Carpenter Lake is actually a reservoir for the Beachy Hydro Dam facility, so hydropower nearby. So we initiated with 3 phases of RC drilling, 84 RC holes, with the majority of those RC holes had good gold intersections in them. That's better than 3-meter interval widths, with some really excellent results in the RC drilling, including 14 grams over 15 meters and about 8.6 grams over 10.7 meters or so as examples. And now that RC drilling primarily identified the Eagle Zone over a 435-meter strike by about 150-meter area and a shear that's dipping about minus 35 degrees to the southwest. And that's defined through about 71 holes, both RC and diamond drilling, that indicate a grade near surface. Most of those intersections are less than 40 meters below surface, of about 5.2 grams per ton gold over an average intersection of 9.6. Now, it's important to emphasize these are not kind of resource type analysis. This is just a ballpark of what we're looking at to give us a feeling. And then this has transitioned into really encouraging results where now the shallow dipping shear is rolling into the steep dipping structure, which is highlighted with our discovery hole on that Eagle South area, which we announced in January of this year, of 15.7 grams per ton gold over 24 meters. And now with additional drilling we've done this year, got other intersections in it like 8.4 over 12 meters and 3.9 grams per ton over quite good widths like 30.5 meters or so. And of course, RC drilling's also generated the Imperial Zone up plunge, which was never drilled up plunge, interestingly. And we made that new discovery at Diplomat, which I've already mentioned. So we transitioned into diamond drilling, and I'm just going to summarize the statistics of the holes that we have received assay results for. We did 22 holes last year, and we've got 10 holes where we've got assay results this year. So that's 32 diamond drill holes. 26 of those drill holes are at the Eagle area, and 6 of them are down at the Imperial Zone. The holes in particular, the Eagle area, have been generating consistently good results, with 6 of the 26 holes with excellent intersections, or about 22 or 23%. And what I mean by excellent is anything that's kind of roughly 10 grams over 10 meters or 5 grams over 20 meters, that kind of analysis. And this gives you examples of what I classify in that grouping of 6 good holes of excellent. That's all of the 6 holes with the excellent intersections. So overall, we also got some good encouragement down in the Imperial Zone, but essentially 25 of those 32 holes have significant intersections, or about 78%. That's roughly better than 3 meters and better than 3 grams per ton. And 7 of those 32 holes that we've drilled with assay results to date have excellent intersections with and our diamond drilling is continuing, and we will have continued results from the diamond drilling, which is active right now, right through. Those results are likely to be reported through year end and possibly into the new year. So what does this zone look like? The Eagle Zone, I mentioned, is the shallow dipping feature, and shown in red on this figure is the shallow dipping shear, and that's about the 435 by 150 meter area. Was defined by about 71 RC and diamond drill holes. And in the yellow that we show on this figure is where it transitions into the steeper dipping features, and I'll show a model of that as we go through the presentation. The 2 stars are highlight intersections where we've got very good grade over width, and some of the intersections I've already mentioned, but you can see that they're far apart even in that feeder system, and those highlighted intersections are holes where we're getting good results in the feeder structure. Those are the drill results that we reported up to the end of July of this year, and then this is the most recent press release we pushed out earlier this week that gives us the diamond drill results that came in through the month of August, and you can see another 3 good holes which I highlight on there, indicating that we continue to build with feeder structure type mineralization in the bedrock, plus 1 or 2 of the holes we're getting in there, we are re-intersecting the Eagle Zone as well. I also added on this map a continuation of the zone to the southeast, but that's based primarily on opening up new drill pads in that area and seeing strong alteration, and we're now currently drilling in that area to open up the system to the southeast. So the yellow and red now opens that up beyond the 435 meters defined by drilling so far. So this is a cross-section through that area that just kind of shows the results from our recent press release earlier this week, where we intersect the Eagle and Lower Eagle zone, and in particular a feeder zone, which seems to be associated with a quartz feldspar porphyry close to these very dominant-looking quartz vein systems that seem to be related to the original mineralizing event. They're quite early in the phase and don't have gold with them, but we find that the gold, a lot of our gold zones we're defining now, look like they're on the margins of those quartz veins, or related, in this case, to a quartz feldspar porphyry that's close to the margins of these early phases of quartz veining, which itself is crackle brecciated because of the brittle deformation. The zone in the mineralizing area seems to be cut off by a later fault that forms that dominant linear, but is part of a very broad regional structural feature here that offsets, and we get a poorly mineralized hanging wall off to the southwest. So this just shows how those zones continue under that structure. So this just shows you what some of that mineralization looks like. Mineralization occurs as cataclastites, or essentially fault breccias that contain a dominant number of quartz fragments and iron carbonate alteration and veining that's associated with essentially crushing of that quartz vein, and hence the dominant quartz vein fragments. And then we also, in the quartz feldspar porphyry, the lower zone shows a brittle stockwork of mineralization of quartz and antimony and arsenopyrite. So these two types of systems are associated with this mineralizing event in the feeder structure. And this just is a geological model that kind of shows that. The shallow dipping zone there, called the Eagle Zone, is shown on the right. There may be additional Eagle zones further down that we still have to explore and define. But what we are finding is at least 4 quartz veins that are going anywhere from a horizontal width of 5 to 52 meters wide. So some of them are pretty substantial quartz veins, and those seem to be part of the original the original hydrothermal event that brought in the gold, because then the gold came up along the margins of those and forms breccias associated with the margins of those veins and with quartz feldspar porphyries. So this is a longitudinal projection, so I've taken everything on the property and shown where our 435-meter long Eagle Zone is located. We've got gold now over a vertical based on drilling historically down at the Imperial Zone, and at Eagle we've got gold over about 700 meters vertical, and there's lots of gaps, as you can see, that this area is totally largely undrilled and unexplored, and in an orogenic gold system we just got to get in there and continue to do exploration. And this just shows about 600 meters to the north what that Imperial Zone looks like, which has had a lot of drilling done historically and some by ourselves, showing how the feature seems to be related to that hanging wall fault and sitting right underneath that hanging wall fault in this case. Although up at Eagle it seems to be steeper dipping. So the conclusions, we've got an outstanding new exploration discovery in an historically productive camp, wide, strong alteration in an epizonal setting, with comparisons to Fosterville in Australia, which is a high-level antimony-type gold system that transitions into higher-grade free gold system at depth. And the model provides excellent potential for a good major gold system with depth continuity. We've delivered excellent intersections and drilling statistics. We'll continue to deliver results here as the year progresses. We hope to transition into what our plans are later in the year and new year. Our RC drilling program is completed, but our diamond drilling continues to be active as we speak now, and we expect that our budget was about 8,000 meters, and we're about 5,000 meters or so into that. And then we did acquire new targets in April of 2022, but I won't have time to go through that. Corporately, We as a company own about, 3 insiders own about 55% of the company, so our interests are totally aligned with shareholders. We got about 137 million shares outstanding, and working capital at the end of the second quarter of 3.8 million. So that's it. Thank you very much.